And here we are. Hello, gang. How are we doing tonight? I'm Big D, and you're not. Oh, quiet night, it seems, this eve. So, as through the title, not a lot going on this week. There's a tournament going on in a couple weeks. I'm thinking about signing up for. There's not a lot going on in the game right now. We're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for the data scribe to come up. Hey, everyone. Good to see you, though. My desire to play is still there. I still love the game. But I'm thinking about like trying to get into an escalation league or get into something in a much more casual sense of the game. Just because I want to get some games in with her existence is pain, Mythos. She exists in a state between pain and death. Messing around with some ideas for getting back into writing. I gotta say, the lovely conversation that we had last week about Cyberpunk did a lot to jazz up my creative juices. I must say. Been working on trying to get, as you can see, got a bunch of stuff cleared up, got a bunch more to go yet. Still trying to clear room, trying to make time. Still pretend that I love my wife and hang out with her some here and there. That's getting harder to do. A lot of people do play good money to get their juices jazzed. That's why I enjoy this lit. That's why I enjoy doing this. Because I get my peoples to get me all jazzified. Yeah, I know it's been weird. Like I've been super creatively minded lately. Like really into like some really creative concepts lately. But it's hard because they're not very game related. At least they're not very miniature related. Like I've got all this juice going on that once I get some stuff cleared up around here, I got some idea once I get this stuff built and I get Commodore's terrain finished. I got an idea for a build that I'm probably just going to make and then gift out because I don't really have room for it. But I just have this really crazy cool idea that I want to make, which yeah, no, like, dude, I can show you where it's at right now. Where did I put it? Like, here's the main piece right here. Like, we just got to go through and do the detail work, and it's done. And this is where most of it's at. Just we're like most of the way through it. Just got to do some detail work. By the way, I mean, you're looking at this now. The first time you're seeing this, what do you think of this color scheme? So it's got that hint of rust. There's going to be a lot of steel all over it, a little bit of brass, but a lot of steel, and so they'll see like this rusty brown kind of dragging through. See, so like I said, it really is almost done. I mean, we're really at it, buddy. I'm just touching it up here and there. I'm actually I did a bunch on it this past Thursday when we weren't in. And so, yeah, there's a couple pieces that match it too. So it's getting there, buddy. We're getting there. See? We're getting there. This will be amazing when it is complete. Speaking of WOG. Friend of the show, Roxy the Riveter. She had some troubles earlier this year. House fire and lost a bunch of stuff. And my man's Frost and Fist, Mythos, and Freak are doing like they're being the face of a drive to replace a bunch of stuff that's lost. Now, I already know that Commodore is already thrown in on it. And Commodore, have you already sent that package out? I gotta ask. Gosh darn it. Okay, so I went through my stuff and right off the bat, I did find, because Roxy lost all her orcs, and Roxy is an orc player to the nines, so she needs orcs. I found spare in my collection sitting in my bits box. Huh. Did you send her your entire orc collection? Because I know you've been on the fence about your orcs. Did you send your entire orc collection? I'm just curious. And if you don't want to say you don't got it. But anyhow, either way. No. All right. Mythos. I will get this sent over to you. Or if we have, Roxy's address, you can give it to me privately or whatever. I have an extra big mech with the lightning gun thing. I forget what it's called. I've already got one in my army. I don't really need or want a second one, but I've got one perfectly new on sprue that I will send on its way. So we'll get that on our way to Roxy. And then I have a bunch of STLs that I passed on. Oh, okay, perfect. That's perfect. I wish I would have known. I wish you had said something to me first. I'll throw this with it in there so you can throw it in there. I mean, that's proof. I don't pay attention to a lot of social media lately. I'll be honest. I have been out of touch with social media so much lately. I have been I barely pay attention to the chats I'm in. I'm kind of consumed with a bunch of other pursuits right now. Oh, geez, dude, don't worry about shipping. I mean, I'm going to throw it in an envelope. It'll be there in like a day or two. It's not a big deal at all, buddy. I mean, that's like $3.90. Don't freaking worry about that. I'm just saying I wanted to send it in a single package because it's so small. It was a shame to just send that. So before I send it, I may have to go through the boxes. Maybe gift her maybe a squad of 5 boys like the boy I sent you, Mythos. Give her a little retro love. But and that's excellent. So I'll throw a 5-man squad of them in there or something. I've got so many of them. It's dumb. So I'll go into the box. I got it, and I'll send out 5 of them. Maybe a 5-man squad of Gretchen too. But yeah, that's the thing. Like I've got a bunch of stuff. Anyhow, those are familiar with Frost and Fist. They have a video that they just went up earlier today talking about them pushing to do this for Roxy. I would encourage all my friends to throw in and help this person out. Roxy's a great member of the Warhammer community, and this tragedy that has beset her is just sucks. You know, it just sucks. And I know when I've been in tough spots, the community has always been there to lend me a hand, especially when my brain was not doing well. So, luckily for Roxy, it's just material stuff. And material stuff is replaceable. It's always replaceable. So we're gonna get Roxy some plastic, and get it on its way to Roxy so that she can rebuild her walk. There you go. Thank you, Commodore. Appreciate that. So if anybody who's not familiar, or anybody looking at this in the future sees this, if you want to help out Roxy, I would be super appreciative of that. It would make you awesome in my book. And as you can see, yes, I am once again on Necrons. I've been liking playing my knights, not gonna lie. I like knights. I think they're fun. Enjoy them greatly. But because I've been in a casual mindset, I'm back into the what have I not had a chance to play yet? And it comes down to 2 armies. Votan, which I don't have enough of to actually play, and they're only built. And Necrons. I love me some Necrons. I really wasn't crazy about the Necrons at first, like back in the day. But as more and more of them have found their way into my possession, I have become more and more fond of them. They are fun models. There's a lot of interesting little silly details on them that I dig. Um, Very underrated, fun army. There's a lot of fun to them. And yeah, I mean, I hear that there's some ways to play them that are really cool. I don't know that I have the units to do that, but here's what I do have. I'm getting a third one of these next week because my Imperium shipment is coming. Maybe it's a fourth one even. So heavy Scorpec destroyers. The big bladed destroyers. Lots of warriors. The Silent King. And let's just make it happen. Let's just be wrong about it. And I did it again. Always screwed it up. The picture for this piece is so. If you've built this model, they show a piece at a weird angle, and this is now the second or third time I've built one of these guys, and every time I keep building this one section upside down. This goes plugged into there, and those go into the slots. And it's like, do they go up? They'll look at the initial way they're put in. It looks like they go up. But then when you look at it again, it's like, oh, the next drawing, it's like, oh, no, they go the other way around. Just aggravating. It's a really unclear piece of instruction. Hey, Rob, the miniatures paintbrush. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. I am very happy to see you. But yeah, I mean, Necrons are just, as an army, I don't care that they're super good. I don't care if they're super bad. They're not Votan right now. Oh, those poor dwarves. So brutalized right now. You know, they're not Eldar. And knights are good. Like, if I need to go get my I'm going to beat you mode on, I'll go throw on some knights. Not a lot of people have the tools to deal with a big old knight army. Like, it's hard. It's hard to deal with like a knight army right now. You know, you're playing either volume fire, praying for 5s and 6s on your part, and praying for 1s and 2s on their part, and that's about it. Really, or you're playing Eldar and just trying to mortal wound everybody off the table. And since I refuse to play those dandelion eaters, I like them well enough. But I want to play some Necrons because they live in the world of, well, volume of fire and volume of OC. You're not going to stop me. If I can throw 3 blobs of 20 warriors on the table and just go try and kill them, just try. There's a regenerator with each one of them and an orb, and they're not dying. You're not killing them. They're just Still here. I've been looking at that, just like, you know what? Zombie robots, just, it seems wrong and fun at the same time. So yeah, I think I can. I think I can live with that. I think I can absolutely live with the idea of zombie zombie robots. Um, Weird little piece of trivia I found out today, which I had no idea about. Talking about zombies. Weird little piece of trivia I found out. So everybody knows that zombies eat brains. Zombies, they eat brains. Oh, brains. Before 1985, that wasn't true. And I was shocked to learn that. Before 1985, traditional zombie lore was just that they eat meat, they eat people, they eat the living. It wasn't all about brains. That came about in 1975. So, and the funny thing is, I've seen the movie. There was a movie in 1975 called The Return of the Living Dead. And it was this punk rock music based, I mean, it was a punk rock group of kids that came across basically the zombies from the classic Romero Night of the Living Dead. And there's a whole reason about Romero, who really popularized the zombie genre of films, why he didn't own, like, the rights to the film got split up. So he only owned some of the rights, and so that's why there's like Dawn of the Dead, Dawn of the Living Dead, Return of the Dead, Return of the Living Dead. There's all these different films, and basically half of them are owned by Romero because that was his trilogy. And like the person he made the very original film with owns the other half of it, or he sold off that half. Anyhow, the non Romero franchise in 1985 did a film called Return of the Living Dead. And the zombies in that movie it was a moderate comedy. I mean, there was comedy bits in there, or quasi comedy. It was very dark. It was a really weird movie. I loved the movie. Classic soundtrack, headlined by the punk band 45 Grave. Just a great soundtrack. If you can find it, Return of the Living Dead, 1985. There's a great scene of a goth punk chick dancing naked on a grave. It's a hilarious movie. But they explain in that movie that the reason that, and the zombies explain this, the reason they want brains is because eating the brains, it hurts to be dead. It's painful. And eating fresh brains reduces the pain. So they were like, brains. It was all about the brains in that movie. And that was the first time that was ever a thing. And I was like, really? Because I remember the movie. I saw it when I was in high school. It was like really just a really fun movie. I remember I saw it at a drive-through here in town at the old Silver Mill, not Silver Mill, what is it? Silverbird drive-through. No longer exists anymore. It's a great drive-in theater here in town. It's also the drive-in that I saw Star Wars at like 10 years earlier, or like 8 years earlier, whatever it was. 78, 7 years earlier. But so I kind of looked it up. I was like, yeah, it pretty much is the origin of zombies eating brains. But that movie, even though it wasn't a big movie, had such a cultural impact because all these other zombie movies after it took that lore and ran with it. And zombie comics took that lore, and zombie books and all of this stuff took that lore and ran with it. They're like, that's cool. Zombies eat brains. Okay. Now we live in a world where zombies eat brains. It's interesting. We were talking about cyberpunk last week. It is interesting to me to see how media evolves, sometimes from a single source. You look at going back to cyberpunk, you look at how William Gibson, when he quote unquote created cyberpunk, one of the big things is that he created a bunch of techno jargon when he was creating it that's become like the standard. That not only the standard, but it's become like mainstream words. Like, he's the reason that we call the World Wide Web, which is what it was at that point when they were first still conceiving it. He's the one that started calling it the net. He's the one that started referring to virtual reality as being in a matrix. It's crazy the amount of concepts that came out of that film, out of that book, out of Neuromancer, that became reality, became real, became a thing, real concepts. And yet one of the funniest things that a lot of people talk about is the fact that all these things that he saw, this technical savant that had all these ideas, and the one thing he didn't foresee was cellular phones. Because they really weren't a thing yet. And like, until they happened, nobody really kind of saw them. Nobody kind of projected them. There was global communication, but it was all done through still landlines. And the idea of carrying a phone with you, around with you, was a weird foreign idea. Until 1985, zombies ate people, not brains. Now, brains. So it's funny to me. It's just very funny to me. And I was trying to figure out, like, what other media pieces over time, what other media pieces over time have influenced their genre or even originated an entire concept that's become central to their genre. And that, there's a whole list and line of them. Books that created concepts that end up being used over and over and over again. I think one of the ones that I've thought about a lot recently is Dune, and Dune's obsession with technopaths, or not technopaths, astropaths. Like, the whole idea of people that have psychic abilities, that their whole job is to be able to understand how space works and folds to navigate, the navigator class. And yes, 40K stole a lot of things and lifted a lot of things from Dune. But there's actually a number of other books and a number of other genres that use, like, these astral psychics that are used to see the depths of space to be able to navigate a ship through the depths of a vast void. You've got Star Trek, that really was one of the big originators of the idea of hyperspace. They never called it that, they called it warp. But if you look at the technology when they first presented it, you weren't just accelerating. They even talk about it. You were jumping to hyperspace and they were folding space to get between 2 points. They weren't in real space because they would just jump out and disappear and jump in and disappear and jump out and disappear. The whole Picard maneuver. Starting here, jumping to warp 9, and then immediately cutting right back off. So you're 2 places at once because of the infinitely small space you're jumping. And being able to shoot, and the shields couldn't handle it. The Picard maneuver. I mean, Star Wars, the whole concept behind Star Wars space transport is jumping to hyperspace. Did that come from somewhere else? I'm not sure. I know I've read fiction after that deal with it, but it's a lot of the stuff I read. I've never read stuff from the pre-65 that mentioned the jump to hyperspace. And again, you've got 40K that uses, again, the jump into the warp. Astropaths, navigate it, and then you open a fold in the warp. So, interesting concepts. Just, it's interesting when you see genres. There's entire genres that have sprung up because a single writer had a good idea and birthed entire genres from it. There's alternate history. There's a series of alternate history books. Where the entire premise starts off with, there was a bunch of Union scouts that found a cigar box from General Lee after they left a camp. And they found somehow when they were packing everything up, they dropped a cigar box. And when they opened up the cigar box, it literally was filled with notes and personal maps and basically the planned out movements for the Confederacy for like the next 2 years. Their plan, their movement plan, like forever. And they got that and they took it back to command, and it was a huge part of what turned the war, because now the Union kind of knew what the Confederacy was planning militarily and could just put resources where they needed to be. And the Confederacy never noticed it was missing. Well, there's a writer that wrote a series of books on the concept. What happens if the North doesn't find that cigar box? And they literally go through close to 100 years of history in a series of like 3 or 5 books, because that box really turned the tide against the Confederacy. Now, admittedly, they weren't doing the greatest, but they were still winning the fights because they had an element of surprise. They were more the Confederacy was kind of working. There were some interesting points behind that. I don't want to sound like I'm pro Confederacy, because I'm not, but it was an interesting point that the Confederacy was doing really well up to that point. But it was when the Union started to figure out, oh, they're going to go here. Well, we'll put extra troops here. They're going to go here next, and we're going to put extra guys there. And they're basically able to outmaneuver them because they knew what they were doing before it happened. Well, instead of losing the war, they just got to a point where they're like, we're taking so much heavy losses and it's just not worth it. Fine, we're just going to let them go. And it ends up being a hard border. And then it deals with the next 100 or so years of history. And it's interesting to see the way it plays out. because World War One happens, and the way it plays out, like World War One happens, and the war breaks out between the North and the South again. And the problem is the South is in a bad situation because just as the war breaks out, there's an area in New Orleans, starting in New Orleans, but Louisiana, where a slave revolt happens, spurred on by a surge of Marxist teachings. So they literally have the equivalent of the Russian Revolution starting in New Orleans. And it's like I said, it's a fascinating set of books. I disagree. I just remember it's Harry Turtledove is the writer. I disagree with some of the points he comes. I have a little bit more nuanced history than I like to admit because I do read a lot of historical books. Like I also read a lot of just history. So there are some things that he makes some assumptions about that I'm not really. I think he did some things for drama, which is fine. It's a fictional setting. But again, Harry Turtledove is a guy that's been writing lots of alternate histories, and he's written a lot of alternate histories, and he's kind of considered like the godfather of the modern godfather of the genre, where he takes historical events, changes one thing, and it changes the nature of history after that, and he writes what if, and he has been doing that since like the 60s. And it's led to other writers and even in other genres going with what if and then going further with it. And then he started to dive into some really weird stuff because he would do what if and then add like a curveball in there. He has a what if in the middle of World War II, Earth got invaded by aliens. And he deals with the idea that, oh, yeah, okay, so it's Earth, we got, two halves of the planet fighting each other, and suddenly reptilian aliens with incredibly higher level technology invade Earth. Well, again, interesting series of books. I forget what they're called, but they're interesting. Harry Turtledove, look him up. He's an interesting read. He's got some good stuff that goes on there. The vampire genre. I mean, there are some definite. I mean, Bram Stoker. Obviously, there are some concepts that Bram Stoker put out there when he first wrote Dracula. Taking folk tales and using combinations of folk tales to create this story. And you look at how many vampire books lead back to his roots there. How many things are like, yeah. And then you had Anne Rice, what is it, 70 years later, 80 years later? Yeah, you have Anne Rice, like 80 years later. She wrote and changed a couple little things because vampire fiction was kind of like there, but not there. And she changed a couple things, and now that's the way it is. Like, perfect example, when Bram Stoker wrote Dracula, vampires could go out in daylight. They just lost a lot of power. She's like, we're going to put them in sunlight, they burst into flames and die. That was a thing that she kind of introduced. It's not part of the original lore, but it became like, oh, that's how it's always been. Vampires always, you put it in sunlight, they burst into flames. Yeah. That's not, if you read Bram Stoker's book, Dracula's running around in daylight. I'm just like a normal dude in night. Well, with some extra abilities, but I'm in daylight. I just lose a lot of power. But even the whole way of passing on vampirism got to the point where it was so popular that There's a role-playing game that basically copied Anne Rice from, hey, this is how vampires work. We're going to use all these other people that have written vampire stories and kind of copy their ideas of what vampires are like. But Anne Rice, she is the base. She's the baseline we're going to run right off of. You know, and there's been a lot of other vampire authors, but I mean, you kind of Anne Rice kind of like set the tone. This is how it's going to work now. Fair enough. And that's what you got to think of. You got to think of other genres. And the reason I bring this up is that I have been looking at other genres. I've been looking at other genres of writing and creating and building and applying to the hobby. When I'm done with my ogres, part of me really wants to do a Seraphon army. But the idea of it being just lizard men, it's cool. The idea of a lizard man is cool. But how can I make it cooler? Well, what if instead of making them just lizards, I've got some STLs? What if I do them as like they didn't sparkle? They did not sparkle. Watch it, mister. Cannot bring that heretical crap around here. Yeah, I don't even have any units yet. But the thing is, I've got a bunch of STLs, and I've got a bunch of STLs that are Aztec humans. They're humans in Aztec costumes, and it's like, I mean, the whole Seraphon aesthetic is Aztec lizards. What happens if I just run them as humans with Aztec looks to them? I mean, that's still cool, right? I got out of my ad mech. I sold off all my ad mech because I didn't know when I was going to get around in the army, and I had somebody who was really, really wanted ad mech, and I'm like, yeah, fine. So I sold off all my ad mech. This is months back. I think I talked about it before. Well, I was thinking if I ever want to get back into ad mech, I don't want to go through buying all those figures again. I really want to go through buying all those figures again. I got one priest left that I'm going to build up, and I'm going to do him in my homeworld colors as an homage to the role playing game I was in with him, and I'm going to stick him with my my Astra Militarum army. Hey, big bro, good to see you. So my thought was, I've got a set of Lizardmen STLs as well, but they're spacebound. They're basically the first ones. So they've got laser guns, and they've got, sonic guns, and they've got all the trappings. Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that, Al. I really have been. I got to see the text earlier. I think it was today or yesterday. I don't know. My days are all running together these days. But I was very happy to hear how much better you are doing. Wow, this booklet. Oh, fold this way. Well, and that's the thing. So, if I do it, like I said, I've got these really cool STLs of the Star Host. They're basically Seraphon, but with a sci-fi take on them. And do them as my as AdMech. You know, I can literally replicate any and all the units doing that. And the broken girl walks. Hello, broken. Language. I will have to share with you some other STLs I have. Like, I haven't been printing because my printer's down, and I don't want to create myself more of a backlog. And that's part of the other reason why I look at it and I think about it. I'm like, no, not yet. Let's get through the plastic I have before we go diving into resin. Because the last thing I need is more shit to do. But I'll let you take a look at some STLs I have. There's a really great company that produces an independent miniatures game called One Page Rules. And although I don't really play their rules because I actually like 40K's rules, they have a series of figures that they produce, STLs for to play their game, that are the equivalents of Marines and Necrons and other races. And they have a couple AdMech-like units, or I should say armies. I don't want to call them units. They have a couple AdMech-like armies. They have the scavenger jackals, and then they have the star spawn cat, or I forget what they call them, but they're basically star lizard men and desert jackals, sci-fi desert jackals. So they're pretty cool. I'll show them to you, see what you think. That is so amazing to hear, Al. I am so pleased to hear that about you. And I know the people here on this channel that love and respect your work and love and respect the stuff you do are as happy to hear about it as I am. We all want nothing more than the absolute best for the big man. It's amazing to hear, Al. It really is. I'm so happy to hear that. Gosh, it's a cool model. Man, this is just such a great model. Oh, I love this thing so much. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. There's a lot of memes going around about how this data slate coming up next month is going to jack a bunch of more stuff up because GW doesn't understand what balance actually is. And I'm like, I don't know. They had it at the end of ninth. It should be fine. I think they'll figure it out just fine. And it's not like it's going to make those of us that love the game stop playing the damn thing. We'll just, again, play competitively. Just going to play with my buds where I can play stupid lists and be fine picking dumb, silly, fun lists. Am I right? Let's just be silly with it and enjoy the silliness. And I know that's weird hearing out of Mr. Competitive, but that really is the way I feel. I had a game with the Commodore a little while back now, I guess. And I didn't put out my best units. I didn't put out my hardest core units. I put out the units I wanted to play to have fun, to show off different rules and play with my buddy. And I had a good time. What do you think there, Commodore? Did you have a good time with it?
Get down off the table, you freaks.
I have noisy cats.
Did you just seriously?
And I'm very proud of you for finally figuring out how to play stupid lists here. Maybe if you'd figured that out 2 years ago, I'd still actually want to play.
Nah. No, because you'd still roll like shit and die.
Yeah, there's a true statement there. Not wrong.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's really the key. I think that's the key for this edition. I think this is the edition where let's just try new stuff. Let's get away from the old habits of how we play, and let's just have fun with the game. I got a Land Raider. I got a bunch of Marines I want to jam in a Land Raider. I got a bunch of Wolves on Cavalry back that I want to run around and be dumb with. Let's just be dumb. Still the only game of 10th you played? Yeah, I haven't played many more. Yes, I was in a tournament, but that doesn't mean much. I didn't really play a lot. I mean, we played, it was a team tournament, so it is what it is. It was fun, don't get me wrong. I had a blast with it, but it's not like it was like, it was a tournament, so it was silly when it was a team game. So Nids and Knights, shh, they don't realize there's meat in here. Don't say anything. They haven't figured out. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I gotta say that's the other thing that's been fun about this edition is looking for mechanics to play. Like, I can tell you right now, Mythos, taking 15 Blood Claws and running them around with Ulrich the Slayer, that's a hoot. That is a hoot. Oh my gosh. You want to talk about just a beat stick, like a unforgiving, unrelenting beat stick of just dumb. That is the way to go. I mean, is it going to win tournaments? No, but man, you are not killing me. You are not killing me. We are going to live. I'm going to live. They are so ridiculous. They're so absolutely ridiculous. And I think I even said it while we were playing. My goal that day was for us to have. Oh, shut up. Just shut up. 3-inch charge failed. I'm re-roll it. Failed. Damn it. Or I couldn't even roll it because I'd already used it on a different charge, didn't I? I was like, it's a 3-inch charge. It's fine. 2. Really? Really? You're going to give me snake eyes on a 3-inch charge? You. Ugh. It's awful. I hate you. Oh, no, that was a hoot. It was absolutely hilarious. Ah. Yeah, that's right. You got to put this part on first. God. Obnoxious. It's the obnoxious model. There are some very obnoxious pieces to building this model. We're going to have to go with the other glue because it is warm enough that my super thin is drying. Really? Really, glue? Great. Oh, I don't like this at all. So my ultra thin glue it's so warm that my ultra thin glue is drying before I can actually put the model in place. So I got to use this pinless. Oh, God, I hate this. Because my regular bottle died. And I haven't been able to get up to Happy Hobby to replace my good glue. So I had to buy a bottle of Citadel with the pin. That didn't work. Oh, you only want alcohol, you terrible. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Beer and Pretzels games are where I'm at right now. Sorry, trying to build this model and getting all into this. It's so warm in the house right now. It's not like grossly hot, but it's just warm enough that it's like, Like everything's evaporating right away. Yeah, I like the idea of beer and pretzels games. I'm like I said, I had fun with it. It was a good time. I want to play more like that. Um, I'm down with that. It was very enjoyable for me. Um, I kind of there's a tournament coming up that because of the clientele should be a casual tournament, to put it basic. Because I don't see any of the big time players showing up for it just because of reasons. Because it's not at my normal, it's not at Warp Star. I know the play group that plays at this other store, and they are the definition of casual, and that's okay. So I'm very seriously thinking about signing up for that tournament, but it would involve me taking off a Saturday working at the game store to go play in this tournament. Franklin, Commodore Franklin is going to be holding a 40K tournament. I think John saw how well the tournament I ran went, and wanted to get some of that action for his star. Yeah, that's another game I'd like to get some beer and pretzels games in with, because I mean that's another pretty much a. I don't take it like a serious, holy crap competitive game. I see it more as a beer and pretzel style game. And that's not a bad thing. Don't take that wrong. That's not a bad thing. Yeah, I hate how that piece fits. Such a bad angle. So one thing I'm not crazy about with some of these push to fit models, because they still need glue. Don't let anybody tell you differently. They need the glue. And some of these fits are just so finically, weirdly angled. Like this piece is glued. It's still wiggly as crap. Like that's glued in place, but that is wiggly as crap. Just does not seem like it's fitting right on there. Yeah, it's all right though. It still looks good. Still looks good. And when I stick it on the base, still looks perfectly acceptable. Yeah, I mean, it's just the push fits. I mean, I like them, but at the same time, they just feel like, we don't really stick on very well. And then this isn't part of that, so that's all extra. Oh, that really was the other way around. That is why. That is so bad. It is just terrible fit. The nice thing is, once it dries, it'll be nice and solidly in place. All right. Again, I like the way that they don't say it's an easy to build figure, but it is an easy to build figure. And it's a good fig. Like every Necron army should have like 3 or 4 of these things at a minimum. It's a great fig. Thank you, Commodore, for hooking me up with that one. Because you can't get them here in Milwaukee anywhere. Nobody has them. And I had one, and he got me a second one. I might have got a third one, and then I've got one coming next week. So I'll have 4. So I can run 2 squads of 2, and that'll be fine. And then the rest of this is junk. I am starting to purge myself of keeping extra sprues of everything. I got to get rid of the junk. And that was one of the big purges. I'm going to have some useful sprues, so I'm going to go through my stuff upstairs. Yeah, there's a bunch of the pins. I think you have to either clip, or you have to clip them at least a little. At least some in a bunch of cases, yeah. We haven't really talked about much tonight. There's not much going on in Warhammer right now. The big thing is Age of Sigmar. Like this week, all the Cities of Sigmar stuff is coming out. I feel like they missed it. Like I'm like I was really hype a year and a half ago when they first announced that they were going to be giving Cities of Sigmar like this whole massive major refresh. I was like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome. And that was a year and a half ago. And now it's like, oh, they're finally doing it, huh? Their release is next week. I don't care. Like, you want to talk about armies I don't care about? That's one that if you'd asked me a year and a half ago, I was like, yeah. And now I'm like, I'm also not real crazy about the new sculpts. I mean, they're not bad, but they don't invoke joy. Yeah, exactly. They just took too long. When they announced Age of Sigmar 3rd edition, They made the big deal that this is going to be the edition about the cities, the crusade. The cities will be leading the charge. They made this big deal in the release video about how the cities were the focus of this edition. They're literally the last army to come out. It feels like Guard in 9th. It's like, yay! We got what? A year? Because next year should be the end of 3rd, the beginning of 4th. That's how this cycle works. So they're going to get an army, and they're going to be like, yay! Yeah, new edition. Like, I hate that about Games Workshop. Yeah, I mean, like I said, the figures, they look okay. They don't look bad. I mean, they have a very Renaissance France and Italy look to them. They're good looking figures. They look good. The batteries, the organ guns, the crossbowmen, the swordsmen, the banners. As a set of figures, they are a good looking army. Are they like really insane and cool? Like, oh my gosh, not like Slaves of Darkness were. I wasn't even interested in Slaves of Darkness. I saw them figures. I'm like, I gotta not buy that army. I can't buy them. I already have all the other Chaos armies. I can't buy that one. Because they looked that good. I was so thankful that Commodore bought them. I'm like, okay, cool. I don't have to get that army because my buddy has them, and I feel like I don't need them. My buddy has them. If I ever need to borrow them, hey, Commodore, let me borrow your Slaves of Darkness. I'm going to play them once. But I don't know. I mean, this whole Cities of Sigmar, like, they announced the edition. They were supposed to be the focus, and now we got a year left, and they're coming out now. It's just like, you missed. They should have been last summer. And I guess that's part of the big problem with the way they do their sales. I understand it. I understand the way their business model works throughout the life of a... But no, they can't do it at the start of 4th because they literally have been talking about them for a year and a half now. I mean, they've been talking about them since they released Dominion. It's just like, you can't do that now. You can't do it at the end of Dominion. They were like supposed to be the focus. Like, if you watch the if you look at the teaser trailer for 3rd edition, it literally talks about the cities rise. No, it was all about lightning bolts and the new Orcs armies. Like, they waited too long. This is a bad time to do it. But the thing is, I understand their business model. They have to keep breaking it up an edition so they can continuously sell new models and new things. I just don't think they need to go to a new edition. I guess that's my whole thing. I like Age of Sigmar. The way it plays right now, it's fun. It's a fun and good edition. I don't think they need to do a new edition. I mean, yeah, Papa GW is going to do what Papa GW is going to do. I just don't think they need to do a new edition. I think what they can do is they can just go, okay, we've made all these changes with the last 3 seasons of the General's Handbook. Here's the new rule book. It is the same edition, but here's the new rule book with all the updated rules, all the errata, all the things we've changed. Kind of like I was hoping they were going to do for freaking 10th. They didn't need to do it for 10th. I mean, that was what everybody hoped they were going to do for 10th. I was hoping they were going to do it for 10th. That's not saying I don't like 10th edition. I like 10th edition. Does it have issues? Yes. But do I like it? Yes. I like that 10th edition is basically Age of Sigmar with some changes. And I like that. I do like that. But I think Age of Sigmar is in a really, 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 really good spot right now. Like, it's really good right now. Like, you can pick up any army, throw down, and have fun with them. There are no really bad armies. There are some really good armies, not going to lie. I mean, it's obvious GW, nothing is ever perfectly balanced. But right now, Age of Sigmar is a lot of fun. It's a fun play environment. You want to play Seraphon? Seraphon are great. You want to play Stormcast? Stormcast are actually really good. I'm not a big fan. I mean, I have a big Stormcast army. I don't know. I guess because it's all I played at first, I'm just not crazy about them. But my Ogres, I love my Ogres. They're so much fun to play. I love Nurgle. They're so much fun. I got to finish getting my Slaanesh together. I want to get my Slaanesh out there because, oh my gosh, they look hilariously fun. They're basically you're basically just shotgun spraying people all over the place. That's basically how they play. That just seems fun. It's a fun addition right now. And I hate to think that in a year we're going to lose that and they're going to come up with a new set of rules and flip the script. And I hate that idea because the game's really, really good right now. But here we go. Here's the Cities of Sigmar. And I was really hyped for them. And now I'm just like, they're just another army. I'd rather do Seraphon. I'd rather do something interesting with Seraphon. Or heaven forbid, Skaven. Like, Skaven are screaming at me. Now, Skaven are terrible right now because they're just Skaven. They're just what they've always been. They've never been a great army. They've just been a massive of an army. I mean, and they look fun. They look stupid. They have some of the dumbest, and I mean that in the best way possible. They have some of the dumbest models in their range. I would love to play Skaven. I really want to play Seraphon. The steampunk dwarves look really cool with the ships and all that. I mean, and the balloon riding dudes. That all looks really cool to me. I think they waited so long to put normal dudes back into Age of Sigmar that it's just like, oh, do we need another faction for Order? I think that's my other problem. Is that we've got another Order faction. There are so many factions for Order. I understand for Chaos. You've got one for each of the 4 Chaos Gods, and then you've got Chaos United. I understand them only having 5. And I understand the undead. You got ghosts, you got vampires, you got ghouls, you got bone golems. Okay. I like the bone golems. I'm going to be building them too. They're waiting to be built. I have some ideas for them too. But did Order need another army filling the void? I mean, it's already over inundated. What about Destruction? Destruction has orcs, it has goblins, it has ogres, it has giants. And that's it. Why can't we get the Dark Elves back and put the Dark Elves on the real underground elves, the things that are drow but not drow? Put them into Destruction. I mean, the Daughters of Cain are barely Order. They really should be Destruction, especially after reading their lore and watching their episode on of the Stormcast cartoon. I mean, they should just be Destruction. They're a bunch of sociopaths. Oh, Song Ice and Fire. I need to play some more of that. Commodore, we need to set up a Sunday where we go play a game of that. Drag the women around, get some bourbon, some beer, drink, cook meat, and play Song Ice and Fire. I kind of dig that idea. Let's take that offline and talk about that. That being said, it is now 8:59, so we're going to give a quick shout out to my patrons. I haven't shouted them out a bit because we haven't had a lot of people around. It's been... We've had a lot of people not being able to get around, and that's okay. I mean, I understand life happens. Life comes at you fast, and it will knock you down. So that's okay. And I'm only down to a couple patrons. I've lost a number of my patrons through disinterest or through whatever. It's all good. I don't need it. And not a big deal to me. I just like the fact that there's a couple people that think I'm cool enough to do it for. So let's talk about my patrons. We've got, of course, come on, give me my list of people. Oh my goodness, why will you not let me see? You know what I hate? I hate when websites decide to change up how they run things. All right, let's see. Here we go here. My current 4 members. I've got, of course, at my Warlord tier. Let's just start off with the big Warlord tier. Let's start off with my man speaking in the chat, my man, the Commodore, and his lovely bride, the Pirate Phoenix. I love to you guys so much. I appreciate you so much. I got my battle brother, who is my actual brother. Love him so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. $1 a month. Still cool. Cool with me. I'm good with it. And then lastly, I have the lovely and mysterious, who's not here tonight, which is weird, because normally they're here every night. Let's go back to the movies. Don't have a Heresy Army? I had one, not anymore. I have one. I'm trying to enjoy Heresy. But lastly, I have Tina Carrasquillo. Let me finish that. Tina Carrasquillo. Ben, good to see you. What movie did you go see? What movie did you go see, Ben? I want to hear. I have Heresy. I have Heresy Wolves. The problem is I played about a dozen games of Heresy and the new Age of Darkness rules. Oh, how was it? I heard good things about that movie. I played about played about a dozen games of Heresy. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's not my cup of tea. It's just not my cup of tea. I can understand why people like it. I'm not going to badmouth it because I understand completely why certain people really love that game. And I love the modeling aspect. My gosh, I love the modeling. I really do. I love the modeling in that. I love the kit bashing and the attention to detail and the love and craft that those figures should get for a historical styled game. I just don't like the gameplay. I'm just not a fan. And the problem is that gameplay is what's pushing me away from actually the idea of playing the old world when it comes out. Because the old world rules probably won't be much different than that because they're using older versions of the rules. And there was a reason I left during 4th edition. And when I tried to come back during 7th, I was like, this is like, I wasn't a fan. 8th edition was like, yay, I love these new rules. And I came back in 8th because I loved 8th edition rules. And basically, Horus Heresy is 7th edition rules, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of throwing 8,000 dice down board and only really caring about 6s and 1s. And everything else is just kind of there. So, that being said, whatever your game is, you should play more of it. I should play more 40K. I should play more Age of Sigmar. I should play more A Song of Ice and Fire. Instead, tonight, I will probably, after I log off here, play some Hearthstone. Maybe play a little bit of Cyberpunk. And we will see you in the near future. I love all you so much. Thank you so much for coming in. Every last one of you. I appreciate you. Depths of my heart. Glad to see you. And yes, Thursday, Shadowrun. We might do some after action reports about that game. So we will see what we end up doing. But until then, those who are going to see Thursday, you will see you then. And until next Tuesday, game on.